Hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday with 3W. Wellness Wednesday is sponsored by 3W Medical for Women, a nonprofit medical clinic offering free of charge or low-cost reproductive health services to women in the Seattle area, regardless of income or insurance status. 3W does not profit off the reproductive health choices women make. The information shared in this podcast is the opinion of the speaker or speakers. Medical information is not intended as individual medical consultation, but for general education only. Always consult your own health professional for personalized advice regarding medical decisions. And if you're in the Seattle area, consider making an appointment to consult with us. I'm Lauren Whitting, Office Manager of 3W Medical for Women and the host of today's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with 3W. This is your host, Lauren, again. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have my good friend come and join us. Her name is Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Lauren.
Thank you for coming. Ashley is going to be talking with me about work productivity and work-life balance. She is a great executive assistant and HR specialist at a big company, and someone who is just a highly productive person that strives for greatness, truly. And we just want to pick her brain today and see how you can do that while also creating the life you want, because work is not everything, right, Ash?
Yes, and I've learned that.
Yes. Ashley, I just want to talk about how, and have you kind of introduce your job and what you do, and how when you started with a lot of passion and vigor, but you felt like that was kind of seeping into your life, right? A little overworking, if you will. So first, what do you do for work and how has that been?
Yeah, so I am the executive assistant to the boss, and actually his wife works there as well, so to the two of them. And then I probably did that for about a year, and then I took on all of HR as well. I like to be busy, and I asked for it myself, but I've loved it. So I do assisting to them and then just all HR roles for just all employees there, and then kind of office manager as well.
Yes.
Just making sure things are good, taken care of, everyone's taken care of, and just keeping like morale at our office high.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
that's great. And when you started about 2 years ago, two and a half?
2.5.
Yeah. And when you started, did you find yourself, you are a productive person. You like to stay busy, like you said.
Yes.
And you have very high standards for yourself, correct? Yeah. When you first started, how did you didn't set any boundaries, correct?
No.
And so what did that look like? What did your life I would love to get a glimpse into what it looked like and now what it looks like now.
Yeah, so I am an Enneagram 1. Mm-hmm. I love perfection. I think more so not necessarily on others as much, but myself.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be like perfect at everything, never make a mistake. And I would kind of do that as like I would work like hours after work, hours before work, always available, always kind of working on stuff. As soon as I got an email, I would open it, work on it, even if I wasn't at work, didn't matter, laying in bed at night, answering things just because I want to be on top of it. And I've learned that you can still be on top of things. You can still do a good job at your job, but obviously there has to be boundaries. That's not a healthy thing. I haven't been asked to work 4 hours at night, not eat dinner and skip that. Like
right.
I can work, do my job well, but have boundaries with protecting my family, protecting myself, and let others know I still care about them. I will get to this as soon as I get to work in the morning.
Right.
Emergencies happen. I get that. And so obviously taking care of those, but if it's not an emergency, it doesn't have to happen right away.
Right. Yeah. And I think a thing you pointed on is no one was asking this of you. It wasn't, and I think those are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are works that are just straining on there. Like I have a friend who the job itself goes into the evening because the job is asking her to do it. And that is an unhealthy work-life balance that is being put on by your employer. But this was getting put on by yourself, right? This was a standard that was not like, you need to be working all these hours. It was like, no, I just like have this high standard for myself, correct?
Right. Like when I took on HR, it was kind of a little bit of a mess. And so I put it on myself to get it perfect and make sure everything was good. And so I would work all day long and then I would sit home and organize files and go down to the office and scan things. It just wasn't necessary. It could have been done during work hours, but I wanted to kind of show everyone like, oh, she got this up and running in 2 weeks. And really no one asked me to do it. I'm putting these things on myself to make them above and beyond what it was before as fast as possible.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of speaks to our culture, right?
Yeah.
Of we are just our abilities. We are
Mm-hmm.
just our job. You know, you go through school, you go through all this time and you're like, okay, well, I am now a working person.
Yeah.
And that almost like becomes your identity a little bit of like,
Right.
I'm productive.
Yeah.
I am a good employee. My boss enjoys me, not of the qualities you really possess that are like define you. So I think it almost is like not your fault that happened, because it was almost like the product of your environment and how we identify ourselves as like humans in this world is like, I work and I'm successful, right?
Yeah.
And I think now let's talk about what did you go through? Was it a burnout? Was it a big moment? Or was it just like, okay, this is just not sustainable? How did you then switch to now having those boundaries where you don't text people back at 10 o'clock at night, which I do catch her doing something, but better.
She can tell. I make a face when I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're not smiling. Like, I know you're texting someone. No, but was it a big moment, or was it just like, okay, I need to switch something up in my life? How did you work through that?
Yeah, I think just realizing myself like, okay, this is not sustainable to do every day, all the time, and just realizing like it's not necessary. I think just kind of becoming a healthier version of myself and just trying to take those unrealistic standards off myself and realizing like, nope, you can do a great job at your job, meet all of the expectations, and it doesn't have to be working around the clock.
Right.
You need time for yourself. You need time to take care of yourself, work out, eat, do all these things that I need to do to be a better version of myself. And I can't be the best version of myself during those work hours if I'm tired, not being able to wake up in the morning because I worked extra hours the night before. And so just realizing that in order to do the best job at my job, I need to be taking time for myself, taking time for my family, and just filling myself up so that I can pour that out when I do need to be working.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a big thing of, the givers in life are like, my cup's empty. How are you going to give it to anyone else? Right. And I think people who naturally want to help are such a gift to organizations and to people and to life, but at what expense? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to wish you worked more hours on your deathbed. I know that's like very morbid, but it's like kind of puts things into perspective. Yeah. Because you're thinking, when you think back to your year, okay, I had 1 year of life, the high points and the things that you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. That was like that filled my soul. Yeah. It probably wasn't scanning the HR files in.
No.
Right?
Well, even I feel like I kind of showed people the first year or whatever, like, oh, Ashley's available all the time. You can text her whenever, you can do whatever. She'll respond right away. And I think I've kind of had to unlearn that myself or show other people and create those boundaries. Like if you're submitting vacation at 10 p.m., it doesn't have to happen right then, but I created that people knew I would do whatever. I would get you an answer. I could make it happen, even if it was an emergency. So I've kind of had to reset boundaries, which is a little harder than setting boundaries to begin with. Right. So I've had to recreate that and be like, nope, this is what the process is. This is what I do as a healthy individual in a working environment, and trying to create that and make that a standard for myself.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because and then that can kind of get resentful because you're like, oh my gosh, why are they texting me at 10 p.m.? When you're like, wait, I responded for a year at 10 p.m.
Of course they are.
So like they think like that's Ashley's baseline. She's just on all the time.
Yeah.
But like that's not sustainable for your life. And at the end of the day, like, and I can say this from someone who's an office manager and has volunteers and manages people, that I care more about the longevity of having someone than them giving me 120 million% way above what's sustainable. And then you'll lose a great employee because of burnout.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think you got into a healthier mindset, and probably kind of other things in your life fell into place where you could be like, okay, I can step back. But yeah, how has been, because that can be kind of hard conversations. How has the reestablishing of boundaries been with some of your employees?
I think definitely a little rough, because it kind of was an abrupt, like, I'm realizing, okay, this isn't how it needs to be. And so kind of trying to graciously let people know and over communicate, like, hey, I'll get to this in the morning, so that the next time they probably won't send it at night.
Right.
They realize, oh, if I send this in an email, she probably won't get to it tonight, but she'll get to it first thing in the morning because she's on it. She'll see it. Yeah. She'll take care of it. And so just making sure that is communicated, because I went from working all the time and trying to do everything to then trying to stick more within hours and be taking care of myself that way. So it's trying to communicate that, make sure people, when I'm at work, loving on people and making sure that I'm caring for them and letting them know that I appreciate them, I care for them, I value what you need, and I will take care of it, and
Just
I will do it. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it really points to like, there's a hierarchy of needs, right? That's like a big thing. And like, if somebody's in a crisis, yes, we will be. It's not like you don't want to be available, or even like your boss. Like there might be a higher level of responsiveness. Thank you. Responsiveness to your boss than like an employee that just wants like their vacation approved or whatever, you know? So I think it's probably you going through, okay, what is the hierarchy of needs? I'm here first. I'm eating dinner. I don't need to deal with this. Or it's like, oh, this person's, there's like something happening at work that I need to run over and deal with. You know, it's assessing that and learning how to assess that, right?
Yeah. And my bosses are so gracious and kind. If there ever is an emergency that they need something, they're so kind to be respectful of my time, my boundaries. But obviously emergencies come up sometimes. And it makes it easier to respond to those because I'm responding to emergencies and not just all these little tasks that don't need to be done. And then an emergency happens. That would be so draining. I have the capacity and energy to handle that and deal with it and make room for it because I've been taking care of myself and respecting those boundaries with everything else.
And then, so I love where this is going. How is someone who's in it, like in their career, really excited about it and are finding themselves feeling burnt out? What are some tangible things that you can do to pour back into yourself? You know, we've had a self-care podcast on here before and we talked about how doing things for yourself is truly self-care. Like if it's doing something for others, it's not. But how did you find that cup getting refilled when you set those boundaries? And how did you, because that jump from overworking to self-care probably felt a little selfish, right?
Yeah. I think for myself, it's just kind of sitting down and realizing things that fill me up. I love to work out. I love to organize. I love to be creative that way. And like doing projects around the house, that absolutely fills me up. And so making sure I have time and space to do that. My hours not at work. I need to be doing things that, one, taking care of things in my normal life that need to be done, but leaving that space for myself to take care of myself and feel whole and healthy and like I have the energy to go into another day with excitement for what I'm doing because I love my job. But if you're tired all the time, you don't have that capacity to be excited. So just every day kind of feels like a drag. So filling myself up and having just that energy to get after it the next day.
That's awesome. Well, great. And did you find yourself because you are a very productive person, you're highly successful person. I think you operate at a very high level, like you don't mess up things is what I assume and I see from you. Did switching to the balance that you found kind of make you insecure in some ways of like, oh gosh, like did you feel your work defining yourself and then you would set those boundaries and then start to be like, oh, I like have negative self-talk did you find working through that, or when you did that, you were like, oh no, this is just great and I'm good?
I think maybe a little bit at the beginning, like I would see an email pop up and in my mind just naturally think like, oh, need to take care of that. And I'd be like, no, it's not over it. We don't need to do that. You can do it in the morning. And sometimes I find myself like, you're so behind. I can't believe you don't get to this stuff. When in reality, it was an email that came through 12 hours before and it's the beginning of my work day. And so just kind of trying to remind myself like, nope, like you want, I was going to say there's grace for that, but it doesn't need grace because
but grace for yourself for feeling that, because you feeling that is again a product of your environment and a product of who you are. It's reflective that you're a great worker. However, you need to have grace that like, oh, I don't need to be so hard on myself, or I don't need to have these incredibly high standards for myself when no one else is putting that on myself. And I think that's a really common thing people feel is really they're honestly great workers. They're great, you know, they're hitting these standards and maybe they're not getting affirmation from their boss enough, or they're feeling this sense of unperfectionism because our world is all about perfectionism that we place on ourselves, like you said. So I think a big thing when people are transitioning into more balance is telling yourself that like, no, this does not define me and I am still a great, fabulous worker. Because if I wasn't, I wouldn't have a job. Like truly.
Exactly.
Like that's what Helen, our boss, always says is like, if there was an issue, I would tell you. Like if your boss had an issue, he or she would be like, Ashley, this is the issue. Because we both work with very direct people. They're not like, they're not passive aggressive. They're very direct people. So if there was an issue, we would know about the issue.
Exactly.
So I think that's a really great thing to note on. And I think a big thing Ashley has shown is you can be productive and you can do well at your job while still taking care of yourself. And that's so important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And then, again, here at 3W, even coming for an appointment or taking that time and saying like, this is a boundary. I haven't got a well woman exam or testing or whatever in 2 years because I've been working so much. And I think a form of self-care is taking care of your physical health and taking care of your mental health. And so if things do arise and you set these unrealistic standards and then you go to a doctor's appointment and people are like, what happened? Where is she? I think here at 3W, we really strive to be there for you guys and be able to meet the needs that you need. And a well woman exam is a very great reason to leave work for an hour because your health is your life, right? Like like you're saying, you got back into exercise a little bit more and you weren't overstrained. Your life and your body and your health is way more important than a job.
Yeah.
Your career is everything. But like at the end of the day, like if you don't have the body and the health and and you don't get preventative work, taken care of beforehand, what's the point of working if you can't have a body to work in?
It's true. So. I like to, I find myself, I like to wake up early and work out before work. So when I go to work, I feel like I've already taken care of myself for the day and I have that energy I just feel good. And exactly.
Yeah. I love it. Well, what is the last thing you would want to leave our 3W Wellness Wednesday listeners with, Ashley?
I would just say make sure you are taking care of yourself so that I know for me, I like to take care of others, but I can't do that if I'm not taking care of myself and I can't do my job well if I am not giving myself that time. So just make sure you are a priority and it's not selfish. Yeah. It is actually beneficial for everyone else, including yourself, so you can then pour yourself out.
Yeah, and be productive like you want to be. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to another Wellness Wednesday with 3W. Please reach out if you ever need anything from us. Our number is 206-588-0311. And our website is 3, medical.org. And you can book an appointment there, call me, talk to me or some of my coworkers, and we'll get you all handled and set up for your self-care wellness exam. Thank you so much for listening and be well. For more information about 3W, please visit our website at 3wmedical.org. That's 3, medical.org. From there, you can learn more about the services we provide, book an appointment, or make a donation if you'd like to support our mission. You can also call our office at 206-588-0311. That's 206-588-0311. If you liked this episode, please share it with others and consider subscribing on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay healthy and be well.